Hello and welcome back to On the Workbench. Today we are inside my '06 Saab 9.3 and we are looking at the climate controls. Now maybe your controls look a little bit like mine and you can see where the button print is starting to fade away from adjusting the fan or turning on the heated seats or whatever else that's looking just a little bit dingy. And maybe we want to refresh that look, so that's what we're going to do today. So now let's take a look at the parts that we're going to need to be able to update and refresh these buttons. The tools that you'll need to do this button upgrade, if you will, are very, very simple. First of all, you might be able to get away with only a flat head screwdriver. I'd recommend that it be round on the shaft rather than square like some of them are to avoid damage. Or if that's a concern to you, you can also use some of these non-marring pry tools. You need something that's substantially stiff. Not all pry tools will work the same because if they're too flimsy, they might not actually be able to pry the unit out, which is why a flathead screwdriver, perhaps a little wider and thinner, would work best. And you also may want a nice sharp knife to be able to help cut out the parts or trim them down if you get some of the filings on them that need to just get whittled down a bit. So pretty straightforward on the tools. Now let's get started. The parts that we're going to need for this radio repair or update, if you will, or refresh, comes from Dorman. Now, I've had this sitting on my workbench for, I don't know, maybe 8 months now, because it's not really been an urgent repair. So I know the box looks a lot worse than what it really does on the inside. So here's what you get. You get a set of buttons and a toll-free number from Dorman. Need help? Save a trip. Not sponsored. And so the first thing I noticed when I look at these buttons is these are not exactly the same OEM soft touch that was there before. But to be fair, that's also been part of the problem and why you'd even consider this, because of the soft touch rubbing off. So this is the kit that also includes the heated seats. I think there are some of these that don't have the heated seats. So if you got heated seats or not, pay attention because you may want those for that refresh. And so now the next thing we're going to do is be able to remove these. So if you ever built a model car, it's kind of just like that. We're going to have to kind of work these pieces out very slowly, one by one, making sure we don't damage the part itself. But you can see how these are all kind of molded together. Looking at the back, there's the little clips, and we have to separate it from the rest of the master piece here. You may want to work on a little bit of fatigue on trying to just bend these back and forth and back and forth. There we go. That kind of popped off there by hand. Flex this around. There we go. But now we've got to break the little tabs off this a little bit closer. Like that and like that. There we go. Slow and steady. And we'll make a nice little pile of our parts. I'll keep doing this off camera, then I'll show you the results. And then now after I've got them all cut out here, what I've done is I laid them out in order on my workbench, how they will lay out on the updated climate controls. Now that we've seen the parts, obviously the next thing we need to do is remove this control unit from the vehicles. And then if you're having troubles trying to use your trim tools, if you can use a flathead screwdriver, try to find one that has a round edge on it so you got minimal extra edges that will risk damaging. And then this will just pry right out, just like that. We're going to slide this out. Now there's two connectors, one on either side. You pull the tab out, and as you pull it out, it'll back off. So that's on the left, I'm sorry, on the right. And this one is on the left. Again, as you pull the little tab out, it'll just back right off. I must be off by just a touch here. There we go. And now there's our unit. We're going to take this back over to the workbench to install the buttons. Now that we've got the unit out and on the workbench, we have to be able to get access to the buttons. So there's a nice little front bezel on this. We're going to turn this around, and then from the top, we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver. See if we can gently work this underneath here, like this. Pop that up there, and we're going to work that around the side. There's another tab here on the side. Same on both sides here. We can work that over the tabs. Take your time. Take your time. No reason to rush this. Eventually it'll pop off just like that. And then now we have our buttons that we can remove. I'd recommend taking a picture of this with your cell phone just to make sure you've got the order correct. That's also why I laid out my buttons earlier off to the side. I showed that a moment ago, so I can do a one-to-one replacement. Now we can just start to pop these buttons out. We take the side one here. That comes out just like this. And just for reference, if we look at the one that we're replacing this with side by side, you can see we got everything here that we need. We can put that back down, but I'm going to keep working the rest of these buttons out here so that we can replace them. And it'll be easier to pop them all out and then replace them the new ones than to work them one by one, which is why I recommend taking a picture of what this looked like beforehand. Now that all the buttons are off, we're going to take the old buttons, push them off to the side here. This is a good chance, if this is dirty at all, to clean it. Mine actually came off pretty clean. Now we're going to go one by one, replacing the buttons. I'm going to start here in the middle. There might be a little bit of trial and error, making sure you get the tabs just right for the right orientation on some of the buttons here. I'm going to start right there. For the emergencies, now I'll go for the blank buttons. Now this is where some extra trim may be important. And the heated seat buttons definitely have a left and a right. You can tell by looking at the corners. Oh, that was going upside down, I think. Now when you have all the buttons on, make sure they all work, at least the ones that are supposed to work, that they actually click the way they're supposed to. There will be some help when we get the actual bezel on for the alignment, but make sure they're clicked into place. There's usually these little sockets that the top goes in, and then little keys that have the springs on it are at the bottom. Make sure that it all works the way that's supposed to. These are rocker switches, remember that. Heated switch, the heated seats should just tap on and off. And then now I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get all the parts lined up here. I'm going to gently work on pressing this around the buttons and getting this to lock on to hold our buttons in place. Get that snap around into place there. Now that we've tested our assembly at the bench, it is time to reinstall. So simply all we have to do is take these clips we pulled off earlier. We're going to slide them on. And as we slide them on, remember we got to push the little tab in. As you push the tab in, it'll drive the connector forward. The connectors are different sizes, so you can't mess that up. Or I guess you could, but that would be really hard. And then as it slides in, it'll pull it forward. Here it runs just a bit there as it cycles. After I disconnect it, because the power is still on, and all I have to do is now is just simply press this back into place. I guess there's a couple clips that I missed earlier. Just double check everything is seated. Press it back into place there. And now we've got brand new buttons there on our climate control. All right, now here we are looking at the HVAC controls at night. You can see they light up perfectly, just fine, like you'd expect, kind of like the factory. You can still tell just ever so slightly if you look at them during daylight, if you're a Saab aficionado, that they're not OEM. But I would almost guarantee that 99% of normal people would never know the difference. Maybe you and I that are Saab lovers, we can tell, but nobody else is going to know. So if you found this video useful and interesting, go and give it a thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day. Bye.